Our protagonist was just hit by a truck and hospitalized, but he never expected the hospital nurse to offer cosplay services, and get this, she was drop-dead gorgeous, absolutely breathtaking. What is more, she wasn't shy at all, leaning in close and sweetly asking where he felt uncomfortable. Their bodies were so really close. A nurse. You don't have to be so formal, he stammered awkwardly. And what hospital is this anyway? Hearing his strange address, she froze. Dalang, what nonsense are you spouting? I'm your wife, Pan Jinlian. It was only then that he realized something was seriously wrong. Why were all the surrounding buildings ancient, and why was he dressed in traditional robes? Pan Jinlian, and the infamous Wu Dalang, could he have transmigrated into the world of funny water margin? He frantically tried to recall what happened before. His name used to be Wu Ji, a student at Zhangpu University of Traditional and Western Medicine. He was naturally short, only 1.5 meters tall. After grueling training, he finally won the Super League Championship trophy in football. He immediately sought out his classmate, the campus goddess Wu Yue, because she had promised to date him if he won the trophy. But after all that effort, all he got was a sorry. She preferred Ximen from the basketball team. They were already together. Turns out it was all a cruel prank orchestrated by that damn Ximen just to make a fool of him, the short guy. Ximen even threw in a final jab. Why don't you take a good look in the mirror? A little kid like you thinks he can steal my girlfriend? For someone who'd never even held a girl's hand, this was the most devastating blow. Seeing him walk over silently, Ximen thought he was coming for a fight, but to Ximen's surprise, he just walked right past him, ignoring the entire football team. Laughter filled the air. He is not just short, he is a coward. Utterly disheartened, he walked alone through the rainy night. Just as he was about to cross the street, a huge truck suddenly swerved out and had a close encounter with him. The fragile guy was sent flying hundreds of meters. He thought he was a goner, but to his utter shock, he'd been reborn into the world of Seven Water Margin Thauvan, and with such a beautiful wife. The thought made him incredibly excited. He frantically called out in his mind system, "Daddy, where are you?" But after shouting for ages, there was no response. Instead, Jinlian brought over a bowl of unknown liquid. Dalang, it is time for your medicine. This scene scared him to death. In the original story, Wu Dalang died because of this very medicine. Was he going to die right at the start? The thought made him shake his head wildly in refusal, even yelling "poisonous woman," and slapping the bowl away. Jinlian looked so wronged she was on the verge of tears. The next second, tears streamed down her face. We just moved to Yanggu County and you were bullied, beaten, and fell unconscious, Dalang. I've nursed you day and night for 3 days, and not only do you show no gratitude but you scold me. Hearing that they had just moved here, he breathed a sigh of relief. According to the records, Pan Jinlian shouldn't have met Ximen Qing yet. Watching Jinlian clean up nearby, he hesitated. He was destined to die by her hand eventually, so should he escape, or could he stay and change the story? And seriously, was he just going to leave such a stunning beauty for Ximen Qing? The more he thought about it, the more unwilling he became. In his previous life, he loved playing football, and in football, the best defense is a good offense. Besides, this world might also have other peerless beauties like Pang Chenmei and Li Pinger. With his modern wisdom and perspective, which the original Wu Dalang couldn't compare to, winning over all these beauties shouldn't be a problem. Just as he was lost in his wild fantasies, Jinlian's pained cry of "ouch" came from the room. She was clutching her lower abdomen, grimacing in pain. He rushed over at the sound, and upon asking, learned that Jinlian was having her period and suffering from menstrual cramps. Hearing his concerned tone, Jinlian suddenly felt like he had become a different person, and right then, the long-awaited system prompt echoed in his mind. Transmigrator, your daddy is here. This system is called the Waifu Cultivation System. Host, for every increase in a Waifu's favorability, you gain attribute points. Once a Waifu's favorability reaches 100%, you unlock exclusive talents and bond skills that signify undying loyalty. At the same time, a main quest has been issued: consummate your marriage with Pan Jinlian within 1 week. Success rewards you with the legendary hegemon body of Xiang Yu. Failure results in your soul being utterly annihilated. Faced with such harsh conditions, he was dumbfounded. 1 week. That is way too short. I've never even held a girl's hand in my entire life. Just as he was fretting, unsure what to do, the system, perhaps taking pity on his lifelong single status, gave him a new beginner's guide quest: help Pan Jinlian alleviate her menstrual cramps. Success rewards you with the petal-plucking finger skill. Failure results in your height decreasing by 60 centimeters. What the hell? I am only 1.5 meters tall. If I shrink another 60 centimeters, I'll be a dwarf. Time was short, so he quickly helped his wife to the bed. I have a way to cure your cramps, he declared. Just lie down as I instruct. Jinlian looked at him skeptically. Dalang, do you really have a way? He gave her a confident smile. Don't worry. After all, in my previous life, I was a top student at a medical university. This little problem is nothing to me. He rubbed his hands together quickly to warm them, then drawing on his knowledge of traditional Chinese medicine, began to massage the relevant acupoints. First, he gently massaged the Qihai acupoint clockwise, then pressed the Guanyuan acupoint to dispel cold. After a short while of his massage, Pan Jinlian indeed felt the pain ease considerably. Watching him work tirelessly, she thought, I never knew Dalang had such skills. She had thought her fate was bitter, marrying a short, poor man, but at this moment Dalang was so gentle. After being married for so long and not letting him touch her, Jinlian couldn't help but wonder if she had been too harsh. She sighed inwardly. Perhaps if I wait a little longer I can truly accept Dalang. Finally, the acupoints were almost cleared. It seemed it was time to unleash his divine touch. This acupoint is a bit sensitive, my dear wife. You'll have to bear with it. But not long after he started, Jinlian gasped. She couldn't describe the sensation fuddy. It was tingly and itchy, yet incredibly comfortable. The system's time limit was almost up, so he couldn't help but speed up his movements. With his 1 terabyte of theoretical learning materials and 5 years of specialized courses, he refused to believe he could cure some menstrual cramps. Soon, Jinlian felt a tingling sensation throughout her body as if she'd been zapped by electricity. Dalang, stop, she cried sweetly. I'm all better, it doesn't hurt anymore. Ding ding. A system prompt chimed. Congratulations, host. You have successfully comprehended the petal-plucking finger skill. A faint golden light glowed around his fingers. After all his hard work, the mission was a success. A wave of joy washed over him. With the system's help, what was there to be afraid of? Ximen Qing, just you wait, you're dead. Later that night, lying in bed, he checked his attribute panel. He had gained 10 points from treating Pan Jinlian. These attribute points could be used to strengthen various aspects of himself. He hesitated, wondering whether to add them to strength or charm. Not enough strength meant getting bullied, but not enough charm would make the main quest difficult to complete. As he was agonizing over the choice, he suddenly heard the sound of running water from the next room. Since ancient windows were made of paper, he licked his finger, poked a hole, and decided to investigate. But the moment he peeked, he froze. His wife was taking a bath. Her flawless figure was vaguely visible through the steam. During her bath, she splashed a bit too hard and some hot water accidentally flew out, splashing right onto the paper window. His eyes stung and he couldn't help but make a sound. Realizing it was him peeking, Pan Jinlian was speechless for a moment. He was her husband after all, she couldn't really make a fuss, could she? The next day arrived. Thinking he hadn't had breakfast yet, he decided to make some egg-fried rice to apologize to his wife. To his surprise, the system issued a new quest: conquer Pan Jinlian's taste buds. Success rewards 10 attribute points and lengthening and thickening. The critical part is, failure results in shrinking for an entire year. I'm not exactly huge to begin with, he thought. If it shrinks even more, what then? So, he quickly tied on an apron and put all 10 of his previous attribute points into intelligence. His cooking skill instantly went from beginner to proficient. He senti Hadu to win this quest. Even though he could make egg-fried rice in his sleep in his previous life, he still meticulously performed every step. After all, the reward this time was too tempting. This was about his future happiness. Under his careful stir-frying, a steaming bowl of golden egg-fried rice was finally ready. Just then, Jinlian emerged from the room, still feeling a bit awkward about him peeking last night. He quickly waved her over to sit down. Come, try my secret recipe egg-fried rice, just for you. Pan Jinlian had never seen egg-fried rice made this way before. Every grain of rice was coated in golden egg, looking incredibly appetizing. Yet, even though she really wanted to eat, Jinlian turned her head away, feeling a little touched. Their family wasn't wealthy, but Dalang was still willing to waste eggs for her. Dalang, she said softly, you've just recovered from a serious illness. You should eat it. Her words deeply touched his heart. What a wonderful woman, he couldn't help but sigh. It is all that damn matchmaker Wang's fault. If she dares to harm Jinlian in this life, I'll make sure she experiences the pain of the wooden donkey. For the sake of the quest, he had to make her eat it. My dear wife, what are you saying? You've been so tired taking care of me these past few days, so I made this egg-fried rice especially for you. Our family might be a bit poor right now, but don't you worry. I'll definitely find a way to get us rich. Then you can eat delicious food every single day. As a modern man with a system, making money would be incredibly easy. Seeing his confident demeanor, Jinlian felt like he had transformed, becoming more and more manly. Perhaps she really hadn't married the wrong person. The quest was important, so he urged her to sit down. Wife, quickly, try it and tell me how it tastes. Fearing she'd be too hesitant to eat, he personally scooped a spoonful to feed her. Unable to refuse his earnestness, Jinlian opened her small mouth and took a bite, but almost immediately her eyes widened. The sheer joy of the delicious food instantly filled her heart. What kind of divine fried rice did Dalang make, she thought. It is simply the most delicious food I've ever tasted. The rich aroma hit her soul the moment it entered her mouth, giving her a feeling of warmth and hope. At that moment, the quest's successful notification popped up. Congratulations, host, rewards have been issued. Pan Jinlian was so moved by the deliciousness, she cried. She immediately pulled him into a tight embrace. Her favorability increased by 20%, and she thanked him repeatedly. Thank you, my husband, for making this meal for me. Meanwhile, his blood was boiling and he was practically overheating. If this kept up, he wouldn't be able to hold back. Turns out, a simple hug from Pan Jinlian sent my blood rushing, but Wu Dalang pretended to be sick. Even Jinlian fell for it, thinking my old illness had flared up again, and her face was etched with worry. And just then, as I gazed at Pan Jinlian's absolutely stunning figure, my nose started bleeding uncontrollably. I quickly reassured her, "My dear, don't worry, this illness of mine, it is all because of you. And if you just use a little trick, I can be completely cured." Pan Jinlian looked at me, utterly confused, wondering what exactly I meant. I mean, I couldn't just say it directly, that would be way too awkward. I could only hint at it and see if Jinlian would catch on. But seeing me squirm, Jinlian actually got anxious. She urged, "Dalang, just tell me directly. Whatever it takes to cure you, I'll do it." She reminded me how she'd rather die than be the squire's concubine and was forced by her master to marry me, Wu Dalang now. If anything happened to me, she swore she'd have no choice but to die. Seeing Jinlian's serious, earnest expression, I cautiously stated my needs. As soon as I said it, Jinlian's face flushed crimson with shyness. After all that build-up, she realized I was asking for a special massage. Well, since the cat was out of the bag, I stopped holding back. "Only you, my dear, can help me with this. I mean, I'm a young, hot-blooded man, and my wife is as beautiful as a goddess. If things continued like this, I'd go crazy." Seeing my desperate pleas, Jinlian was finally moved. She confessed, "I've never done such a thing, I wouldn't know where to begin." At this point, I knew it was a done deal. I hurriedly pulled Jinlian towards the kitchen, then grabbed a cucumber, ready to give her a thorough education. As I demonstrated, Jinlian quickly gained a certain understanding of massage. Her heart pounding like a startled deer, she blurted, "I've basically got it, no need to teach me anymore. Dalang, let's go to the bedroom for the treatment now." At this, my heart pounded with excitement. It seemed I was close to completing my main quest, conquer Jinlian. Watching my wife's captivating, nation-toppling figure as she walked away, I couldn't help but exclaim, "So beautiful." In this life, no matter what, I absolutely wouldn't let Ximen Qing have even a sliver of a chance. This woman is Ximen Qing. After sitting against the wall, I was practically bursting with impatience. "Please, my lady, help me." Upon seeing the key area for the massage, Jinlian was secretly shocked. She never imagined that Dalang, despite his small stature, possessed such magnificent equipment. She quietly swallowed, slowly becoming engrossed in what she saw. Only my reminder finally snapped her out of it. She quickly responded and prepared for the treatment. However, that brief, stunning glimpse caused Jinlian's favorability towards me to increase by another 10%. Her current favorability had now reached 30. At first, she was a bit clumsy, but Jinlian thoughtfully told me to remind her anytime if she did anything wrong. The naive Jinlian asked while treating me, "Will your illness be cured if I just give you a massage from now on, Dalang?" I replied that it could only temporarily relieve it to completely cure it. This was far from enough. My dear would need to enter the game herself. Although Jinlian didn't quite understand my words, she didn't ask further, focusing intently on my massage. After a long, thorough session, the treatment finally ended. Jinlian covered her mouth and practically ceased and flew, stepping out. I saw her washing up and I couldn't help but wonder, did I go too far this time? Will my dear be angry and ignore me? Reborn as Wu Dalang, I'm not selling steamed buns anymore. Instead, the system forced me to become a life-saving doctor, all because in my past life I was a top medical student. And right now, the patient needing emergency care is none other than Pan Chunmei's sister. She is suffering from acute appendicitis and needs immediate surgery. The problem is, according to medical protocol, I need to perform a digital exam. But this is ancient China, and her sister Pan Chunmei absolutely refuses to let me do it. Meanwhile, on the bustling streets of Yanggu County in the Great Song Dynasty early that morning, I still had 6 days left until my main quest to conquer Pan Jinlian. Feeling completely bored, I decided to take a stroll through the town. My wife wouldn't even answer her door last night, no matter how long I knocked. Clearly, I'd gone a bit too far and she was still mad at me. But just moping around at home wasn't going to solve anything. After all, winning back my wife would require a little financial effort, and since I couldn't make steamed buns, I started wondering what kind of business I could start. Just then, a beautiful young woman, clearly in a hurry, wasn't looking where she was going, and I happened to step right in front of her. Thump, she slammed right into me, sending us both sprawling. Our eyes met, and I have to admit she was absolutely stunning. Her flawless face was truly captivating, especially with that hint of shyness in her expression. I was completely mesmerized for a moment, until she quickly scrambled up and apologized. "Oh, sir, I'm so terribly sorry. My sister's very ill at home and I'm rushing to find a doctor." With that, she hurried off. As she ran off, I couldn't help but sigh. The great Song dynasty was truly prosperous, filled with beautiful women and vibrant life. But it was a tragedy because in just a few years the Jurchens would invade from the north, cities would be razed, lives lost, and the common people would be left to wander. Burning, killing, and looting would become commonplace. Countless Han people would suffer unimaginable torment at the hands of the invaders. Just as I was lamenting the unfairness of this world, the system suddenly chimed in with a new mission. Turns out, the girl who bumped into me was indeed Pang Chunmei, and her sister was gravely ill, needing Fadami help. Fail this crucial mission and you know what happens next. Just then, a modern medical kit materialized out of thin air. At least the system had a bit of a conscience this time. Knowing I hadn't been transmigrated for long, it specifically sent me this medical kit. I couldn't wait, so I quickly ducked into a corner to examine its contents. The kit had several layers of instruments. Everything I needed for surgery was right there. With these tools and my medical knowledge from university, most surgeries would be no problem at all. Back at the county's medical hall, Pang Chunmei had finally found a doctor. She was desperately pleading with the physician to see her sister. "She is in so much pain. She is barely clinging to life." I was hiding in the shadows, listening to the whole exchange. From her description, it sounded exactly like appendicitis. The only way to cure it permanently was surgical removal, but Pang Chunmei didn't seem to have much money, so the doctor heartlessly turned her away, until she cried out that she'd be willing to become a slave or servant if only her sister could be saved. Only then did the physician pause. Whether he cured her or not, she'd be indebted to him. The young girl was so pretty and innocent. The physician's eyes gleamed with ill intent. Just then, a graceful woman wearing a bamboo hat entered the medical hall. She had a perfect figure but a strong, unpleasant body odor. The physician clearly knew her. He rushed forward, greeting her with exaggerated enthusiasm. After all, she was one of his biggest clients. Seeing Pang Chunmei's pitiful situation, the woman casually offered to pay for the girl's medical fees. Just as Pang Chunmei's heart swelled with hope, I suddenly grabbed her and pulled her away. We couldn't afford to waste any more time. Desperate to save her sister, Pang Chunmei was furious. She snapped, "Let me go, I need to find a doctor." But I quickly revealed my true identity. "I am Bind the doctor. Only I can cure your sister's illness." Seeing her disbelief, I quickly described her sister's symptoms. Even mentioning symptoms Pang Chunmei hadn't told anyone yet. "Your sister has pain in her lower right abdomen, along with a fever, nausea, and vomiting, right?" My description perfectly matched her sister's condition. Pang Chunmei was starting to believe me, but she was still hesitant. She still didn't fully understand the gravity of her sister's condition. I urged, "This is a matter of life and death. If you don't trust me, I'll sign a contract with you. If I can't cure her, I'll pay with my life. How about that?" This dramatic scene was witnessed by the beautiful woman from earlier who was still nearby. She thought to herself, such a remarkable man, willing to stake his own life for a complete stranger. She herself had been tormented by her unpleasant body odor for years. So the beautiful woman developed a strong interest in me. Perhaps he could even cure semi-mine. Hearing my desperate plea, Pang Chunmei finally let go of her doubts. "Please follow me," she urged. We hurried back to her home. The woman lying on the bed was incredibly weak, but thankfully Pang Chunmei had found a doctor relatively quickly. I listened to her abdomen. Her bowel sounds were normal, which meant no perforation. Next, I carefully palpated her abdomen. I didn't feel any abnormal masses. This confirmed my suspicions. It was definitely acute appendicitis. Now for the final step before surgery. I needed to perform a digital exam to confirm if the inflammation had spread, but just as I was about to proceed, Pang Chunmei, who had been watching, couldn't hold back any longer and stopped me. She angrily demanded, "What are you doing? Are you trying to take advantage of her?" Ximen Qing's wife, a woman of breathtaking beauty, had one secret, a terrible body odor that kept her untouched and pure. But I, Wu Dalang, a master of medicine, decided I'd be the one to cure her. Knowing the original plot, Ximen Qing would definitely try to seduce my wife Pan Jinlian, so I decided to beat him to the punch, taking his path and leaving him with nowhere to go. Just moments ago, to perform an emergency appendectomy on Pang Chunmei's sister, I had no choice but to perform a digital examination to confirm if the infection had spread. But no matter how I explained, her sister, a woman from this era, simply didn't understand and raised a wooden stick, ready to strike. Just as I was getting frustrated, worried we'd miss the golden hour for surgery, the sister on the bed spoke up. Chunmei, let him examine me. She was sweating profusely from the pain, adding, at this point we've got nothing to lose. Hearing her sister, Pang Chunmei finally lowered her stick. Heartbroken, she embraced her sister, blaming herself for not finding a proper doctor sooner. Though in immense pain, the sister still comforted her, saying, what is done is done. But as soon as she finished, she was overwhelmed by discomfort and vomited again. Pang Chunmei immediately picked up the wooden stick again, threatening, if you don't cure my sister, I swear I'll kill you. After my confident assurance, the examination finally continued under her sister's agonized cries. The digital exam concluded, confirming the inflammation hadn't spread. I quickly pulled out my medical kit to prepare for surgery, instructing the sister to assist me. As someone from this era, Pang Chunmei had never seen such advanced tools. She was astonished but had no time to ask questions. To maximize the surgery's success rate, I dumped all my available attribute points into intelligence, instantly mastering my medical skills. Though it was my first time performing such a major surgery, I was nervous, but for the patient, I had to focus completely. Under Pang Chunmei's terrified gaze, the diseased appendix was swiftly removed and the surgery progressed to the final suturing stage. Just as I was celebrating the surgery's success, I realized the anesthesia had long worn off, but the sister still hadn't woken up. A cold dread began to creep in. I pressed my ear to her chest. No heartbeat, no breath. Meanwhile, just outside Pang Chunmei's house, a beautiful woman had secretly followed, curious to see my medical skills for herself. Regaining my composure, I quickly identified the problem. The surgery was a success, but she had a sudden pneumothorax. I needed to perform a chest puncture immediately. But just as I was about to make the incision, the beautiful woman from outside couldn't hold back and burst in, demanding answers. Time was critical, so I quickly explained she'd suffocated from extreme tension and shock. Any further delay would mean certain death. Then I ordered the beautiful woman to come help me hold her shoulders down. As the needle pierced her chest, Pang Chunmei's sister gasped, and then her breathing returned. She was finally alive. The beautiful woman was utterly stunned by my medical prowess. Not only had I just performed complex surgery, but I'd also used the long-lost golden needle technique. I looked at her with a smug grin. So, do you still think I'm a fraud? The beautiful woman was now filled with remorse, realizing she'd almost delayed a miracle doctor from saving a life. She immediately bowed deeply and apologized to me. At the same time, a new favorability notification popped up from the system. Wu Yuanyang's favorability just shot up by 20 points. Thanks to the system, I finally learned her name. Turns out, she was Ximen Qing's first wife, Wu Yuanyang. The record stated she suffered from severe body odor, causing her husband to despise her. She was only cured much later by Zhang Huilian, and it was only after years of praying for a child that Ximen Qing finally paid her any attention. This meant Wu Yuanyang was still untouched. She was from a prominent, wealthy family. If I could win her over, my financial problems would be solved. So I enthusiastically helped Wu Yuanyang to her feet. I apologized, explaining the urgency of the situation had led to the misunderstanding. After some polite pleasantries, Wu Yuanyang was still feeling guilty. She was so flustered and guilty that she didn't even object when I took her hand. Seizing the opportunity, I subtly took her pulse. Then, observing her complexion, I said, "Madam, you seem to be plagued by a certain personal ailment." Her eyes widened in shock. Thinking I'd smelled her, she awkwardly took a few steps back. But to her surprise, I gently pulled her back. "Don't fret, madam. This condition is caused by an imbalance of internal dampness and turbid qi. With my skills, it is not difficult to cure completely." Over the years, Wu Yuanyang had visited countless doctors and clinics, trying every remedy imaginable, all to no avail. After hearing my words, she became incredibly agitated. "Miracle doctor, is that truly possible? If you can truly cure me, I'll give you everything I have to repay you." Actually, in modern terms, her condition isn't even considered a disease. With just a few herbs and 3 days, it would be completely gone. I quickly listed the necessary prescription, both internal and external remedies, combined with my acupuncture mastery to unblock her meridians. This would guarantee a flawless cure. After the treatment, Wu Yuanyang was profoundly moved. Her favorability instantly soared to 50 points. The system also triggered a critical mission, turn the beauty. I needed to raise Wu Yuanyang's favorability to 100 and make her mine the reward. Acupuncture effects enhanced tenfold. Having completed everything, I stepped out with 100 taels from Wu Yuanyang as payment. Poor Ximen Qing. He has met his match in this lifetime. You, my friend, are about to become the biggest cuckold in history. Don't let Wu Dalang's short stature fool you, even at just 5 feet tall. He has got the stunning and captivating Pan Jinlian as his wife, and when it comes to a fight he is absolutely fearless. He not only perfectly dodged a whole group of attackers, he even punched out the molar of an 800-pound brute. Just moments ago, he effortlessly cured Wu Yuanyang's embarrassing body odor problem, boosting her favorability to a solid 50%, and snagging a hefty 100 taels as a reward. The very next day I took my beautiful wife Pan Jinlian out for a stroll feeling quite dashing. My wife is easily one of Yanggu County's most stunning beauties, and sure enough, countless men on the street couldn't help but cast admiring glances her way. Many even whispered that a fresh flower was wasted on cow dung. It was a bit awkward, but I just ignored them. They were just a bunch of sour grapes anyway. Just as I was wondering if I should put my remaining attribute points into charm, we happened to pass by a grand jewelry store. Thinking about how to quickly boost her favorability even more, I immediately decided to take my wife inside for a look. The items inside weren't exactly cheap. My thoughtful Jinlian initially didn't want to go in, but after some gentle persuasion from me she finally agreed. Inside, the shopkeeper was a middle-aged woman. Seeing my simple clothes, she immediately sized me up as a pauper, and didn't bother to give us much attention. Noticing a beautiful white jade bracelet in the display case, I immediately took it out and asked my wife if she liked it, but Jinlian, thinking it was too expensive, repeatedly tried to decline, saying we should just forget it. Hearing this, the shopkeeper was convinced. Just as she'd suspected, we were just here to browse. That is, until I brought the bracelet right up to her. This bracelet is quite nice. How much is it? I'll buy it. The shopkeeper's face remained calm, but inwardly she was stunned. Her years of experience had completely failed her, so she immediately plastered on a friendly smile and changed her tune. After carefully packing the jade bracelet, she handed it to me. Excellent taste, sir. 2 taels of silver will do. Stepping out of the shop, I looked at Pan Jinlian with genuine sincerity. My dear wife, you've worked so hard taking care of me these past few days. As I gently slipped the jade bracelet onto her wrist, I declared, I Wu Dalang swear that from this day forward I will ensure you live a life of comfort and happiness. Pan Jinlian was deeply touched by this heartfelt gesture. Her heart swelled with joy, and her favorability instantly shot up by 10 points. She sweetly replied that just being with her husband was enough for her. At this point, Pan Jinlian's favorability had reached a solid 60%. The system, recognizing this milestone, promptly unlocked her character panel, and her exclusive talents were quite impressive. Her loyalty stat was maxed out, and her favorability with the opposite sex received an additional 50% boost. Just then, a group of men swaggered arrogantly down the street. The leader was clearly a spoiled rich young master. He accidentally caught a glimpse of Jinlian, and was instantly captivated by her beauty. How could such a peerless beauty exist in this tiny county town? The very next second his wicked intentions flared. He quickly ordered his henchmen to surround my wife and me, not bothering to hide the greedy lust in his eyes. He smirked. My dear little lady, you're so stunningly beautiful. What good is it to be with a short, ugly dwarf like him? Why not come back with me, young Master Hua? Gold, silver, and jewels will be yours for the taking. They clearly outnumbered us. Jinlian, a little frightened, instinctively hid behind me, but I, disgusted, simply spat out one word: scram. How dare a mere country bumpkin speak to me like that? The young master then proudly declared his name, Hua Zishu. If you know what is good for you, hand over the little lady now. It is your good fortune to be favored by a young master like me. The name Hua Zishu immediately made me think of a certain beauty, and his infamous uncle, Eunuch Hua. The same Eunuch Hua who married his adopted daughter Li Pinger to this very man. The ironic thing is, Hua Zishu actually suspected his wife was having an affair with his own uncle. He spent his days carousing and deliberately alienated her. What he didn't know was that after Eunuch Hua died, his massive fortune was left entirely to his adopted daughter. This was my perfect chance to use him to get closer to Li Pinger. Since he came looking for trouble, he only had himself to blame. Seeing me step forward, ready for a fight, Jinlian cried out in worry, but I reassured her not to worry. My dear wife, just watch how I beat these punks senseless. These guys were nothing but small fry. I just dumped some attribute points into martial prowess, reaching mastery level. That was more than enough to deal with them. My face darkened as I gave them one last chance. I'll give you one last chance, scram. But these thugs were too used to their arrogance. They had no idea what was coming next, and charged at me all at once. With my martial prowess boosted, the attacks of these ordinary thugs seemed to move in slow motion. With a swift, brutal kick to the groin, I easily took down one burly thug. He screamed in agony, his eyes bulging from the pain. He couldn't believe I could unleash such terrifying power. Next, a fat thug charged forward, but after flailing around for ages, he couldn't even land a single hit. When I'd had enough of playing around, I unleashed a powerful punch. The thug's molar went flying from the sheer force of my blow. In just a few quick moves, I dispatched the rest of his men, leaving only Hua Zixiu standing there, utterly bewildered and disheveled. Pan Jinlian's pretty face flushed crimson, utterly stunned by the display. Her favorability shot up to 80%. Is this really the Wu Dalang I know? She wondered. He is truly amazing. Pan Jinlian, who once looked down on me for being short, completely changed her tune after witnessing my legendary martial arts. She not only offered me a massage service but also helped me finally complete our marital duties. After our passionate night, my wife Pan Jinlian's affection level finally hit 100, and just like that, the system rewarded me with the legendary hegemon body of Xiang Yushi, a power that made me feel invincible. Meanwhile, old woman Wang, who lived next door, couldn't help but eavesdrop through the wall. The commotion was so loud she couldn't help but exclaim, "Whoa, this Wu Dalang is something else. They've been going at it for hours." Pan Jinlian even made up her mind that in the future she'd definitely get me a few more concubines. She just couldn't handle all this passion on her own. Later that night, when we should have been sleeping, two familiar faces showed up at our door, the Pang sisters, Chunmei and her younger sister whom I'd saved earlier. After the elder sister had mostly recovered, she specifically brought her younger sister to thank me. Pang Chunmei, feeling guilty for having misunderstood me earlier, said, "Thank you, sir, for saving our lives." Someone had already explained the whole situation to her. After that incident, both sisters' affection levels for me had reached 30. I just smiled and said, "It is a doctor's duty. I'm just glad you're both all right." But with a mix of shyness and indignation, Pang Chunmei suddenly changed her tone. "Even though you cured my sister, you saw both of us completely exposed, so what do you plan to do about it?" I froze on the spot. Were these sisters trying to pull a scam on me? The elder sister, thinking her sister was being too direct, quickly reminded her from behind, "Don't scare the sir." But Pang Chunmei didn't care. "Since you saw us, you have to take responsibility. You need to marry us sisters soon." Just then, Pan Jinlian heard the commotion and walked out, meekly asking, "Darling, what is going on?" As a modern man, I panicked, standing between them, terrified they'd start arguing. Pan Jinlian had heard bits and pieces from inside, so she spoke first. "My dear sisters, you must be joking. My husband, out of the kindness of his heart, saved you. Why are you here to blame him? Doing good deeds should be a blessing, but to talk about marriage because of it, isn't that just unreasonable?" To my surprise, Pang Chunmei didn't back down one bit. "You can't say that. A favor is a favor, but our bodies are our bodies. After he saw us exposed, how can we possibly marry anyone else? You can't expect us to become nuns, can you?" Stuck between the two women, I felt both happy and helpless. I thought to myself, my wife told me to take on more concubines earlier, but now it seems she was just saying one thing and meaning another. Just then, Jinlian secretly stomped on my foot. With a serious expression, she said, "My dear sisters, you're still young. My husband already has a family. As the saying goes, marriage requires parental consent and a matchmaker's words. I doubt your esteemed fathers would agree to this, would they?" Hearing this, Pang Chunlan's eyes welled up with tears. "Sister, you don't know," she choked out. "Our parents passed away 2 years ago now. It is just the two of us, relying on each other, living in constant fear every single day." Their plight was truly heartbreaking. I quickly comforted her. "Miss Lan, my condolences." Her younger sister, Pang Chunmei, was quick-witted. She immediately jumped into my arms, crying and pleading, "Sir, please just take pity on us and take us in. Otherwise, we'll truly have nowhere to go." This scene made Pan Jinlian grit her teeth in anger. She blamed herself for saying the wrong thing and giving them an opening. So she immediately switched tactics. "If that is the case, you should find a reliable family to marry into. That way you'd have a strong backing. Why come to our humble home and become concubines? Your sister is just thinking of your well-being." But the sisters seemed determined to stay with me. No matter how much earnest advice Pan Jinlian gave, it was useless. They didn't care about status. They only wanted a good man who would treat them sincerely, just like me. In ancient times, having multiple wives and concubines was perfectly normal, but Pan Jinlian still wouldn't give up, finding every reason to refuse. However, Pang Chunmei was just as silver-tongued, and after several rounds of bickering, she didn't lose an inch. Finally, out of options, Pan Jinlian angrily declared, "Though the Wu family is small, we still have rules. If you just enter without proper arrangements, wouldn't that cause chaos?" With a thud, Pang Chunlan knelt down, crying and pleading, "Our sisters only seek a safe place to live, and we promise we'll never compete with you for status, sister. We'll obey all your arrangements in the future." After saying this, she was trembling with anger. Pan Jinlian was too overbearing. It was better to yield for now and deal with the rest later. Because I had stayed silent the whole time, Pan Jinlian shot me a resentful look. Her affection level dropped from 100 to 90, and my exclusive talent deactivated. It would only reactivate once her affection level rose again. This sudden notification shocked me to my core. So affection levels can drop too. I helped Pang Chunlan up. At this point, I could only compromise. If I kept resisting, I'd just become the villain. But Pan Jinlian laid down some ground rules. She made two demands. First, they had to earn money to support the household, and second, she'd be in charge of everything in the house, and they couldn't overstep. I was about to say something on behalf of the sisters, but to my surprise, Pang Chunlin readily agreed. She even made a solemn promise if they couldn't earn money for the household, they would voluntarily leave the family. As soon as she said that, a jarring notification sounded. Each sister's affection level dropped by 10 points. My heart felt like it had been struck by lightning. If they kept this up, I'd go crazy. I immediately shouted, my voice firm. Enough, stop bickering, damn it. I'm the head of this household and what I say goes. Wu Dalang, who was destined to be poisoned by Pan Jinlian, is now living a carefree life with a growing harem. It is all because I transmigrated into his body and used my modern medical knowledge to save the Chunlan and Chunmei sisters. The sisters had nowhere to go, and I'd already seen them in a compromising situation, so they had no choice but to become my concubines. The only problem, my main wife Pan Jinlian wasn't having it. She tried everything to talk them out of it, but it just ended with all three women losing 10 favorability points each. This totally freaked me out. I'd worked so hard to build those points up, and if this kept up, I'd be doomed. So I quickly stepped forward and yelled, enough, I'm the head of this household and what I say goes. After my outburst, I looked at a teary-eyed Pan Jinlian and felt super awkward, terrified her favorability would drop even more. But then, my wife's eyes actually started sparkling. She said, Dalang is right, your humble servant will listen to whatever you say. Turns out, my sudden roar had completely stunned her. Not only did her favorability shoot up by 10 points, but I also heard her inner monologue. Now so that isn't how a true head of the household acts. The Chunlan and Chunmei sisters were also startled, and their favorability each went up by 15 points. This sudden turn of events completely caught me off guard. Do ancient women really have such unique tastes? Next, I turned to the sisters and asked them, have you two truly thought this through? I admitted at the time Wu wasn't thinking clearly, but since no outsiders know about this, before I could even finish my sentence while the younger sister hesitated for a moment, the older sister immediately agreed, saying she was more than willing. And just like that, the system issued a new main quest, help Chunlan and Chunmei earn 10 guan a day. The good news was, at least I wouldn't be shrunk if I failed this time. But losing attribute points, that was still a hard no for me. 10 guan a day was no small sum. I started racking my brain trying to figure out what kind of business would be perfect for them. Then, it hit me. In my past life, I'd researched all sorts of bubble tea recipes just to impress my crush, Wu Yue. In ancient times, that would be an exclusive, unheard of business. Since the sisters had chosen to stick with me so resolutely, Wu Dalang certainly wouldn't let them down. Plus, the ingredients for bubble tea were pretty simple. No time to waste. I quickly said goodbye to the three women and headed out to gather supplies. At that moment, my eyes were practically dollar signs, burning with the desire for wealth. Once I got back, I immediately dove into the kitchen. My plan was to start by perfecting a taro ball milk green tea. I'd steam and mash glutinous rice to use as a substitute for tapioca pearls. Next, I'd refine brown sugar and brew the tea all in one smooth motion. I'd already bought the goat's milk. Then, I'd use reeds for straws and process bamboo into cups. I'd mix all these ingredients together in just the right proportions. And just like that, a cup of my secret recipe bubble tea was ready. After a few rounds of testing and tweaking, I couldn't wait to bring it out for my three wives to try. As they sipped the sweet, refreshing bubble tea, Pan Jinlian instantly felt like she was transforming into a butterfly. The silky smooth texture and lingering aftertaste were simply beyond words. The Chunlan and Chunmei sisters reacted the exact same way. They couldn't stop praising the unique drink, and their favorability each shot up by another 15 points. Pan Jinlian learned the drink was called taro ball milk green tea. She admitted the bubble tea was indeed delicious, but could it two'd really earn 10 guan a day? I saw the same look of worry in the sisters' eyes. I just smiled, completely relaxed, and laid out my plan for making money. But first, we needed to crunch some numbers. The raw ingredients for this bubble tea were a bit pricey. The total cost came out to 19 wen. That number shocked all three women. Regular tea only cost 3 wen a bowl. Who would ever buy tea at T7 tea price? But I had absolute confidence in the market. Because the cost was quite high, I decided to price each cup at 100 wen. Seeing their horrified expressions, I quickly told them I wasn't finished yet. Others drink tea from bowls, but 20 Waichu use straws. This is the refined way literati drink, a suyin sur, a pure, elegant beverage. They're not just drinking tea, they're drinking elegance and status. Next, there is the taste. Our unique recipe is absolutely one of a kind. As long as it tastes good enough, people will buy it no matter the price. And finally, marketing. We'll use celebrity endorsements to quickly expand our market, add in some scarcity marketing, and we'll be golden. I rattled on, explaining all my modern business strategies. Of course, as ancient women, the three of them didn't understand a single word, but with me around it didn't matter if they understood or not. I'll teach you everything step by step. We'll open for business in 3 days. My heart was practically bursting with excitement. I quickly planted a kiss on each of their cheeks. Then, I hummed a little tune and strutted out. Pan Jinlian secretly thought, my Dalang is getting more and more mischievous. But then she remembered, we only have one bed in the house. How are 4 people going to sleep on one bed? After leaving, I headed straight for Ximen Qing's mansion. My current funds only allowed me to open one store. Building a chain would have to wait. For such high prices, I needed a celebrity endorsement. And for a celebrity, Wu Yuanyang was the perfect choice. I knocked on the grand door and waited patiently. Soon, a maid came out and asked who I was looking for. I disguised myself as a visiting doctor and asked her to inform Madame Wu. Turns out, this maid was actually one of Wu Yuanyang's personal attendants. Her mistress had given specific instructions, so the maid respectfully invited me inside. On the way to Madame Wu's chambers, I unexpectedly spotted a beautiful young maiden swinging on a swing. She was absolutely stunning, a true beauty. She looked Fai-Ti exactly like the goddess I'd pursued in college, so Xiaoyue slipped out of my mouth. The maid beside me quickly shushed me. Don't just shout names. That is Miss Ximen. Just as I was feeling incredibly awkward, a ding sounded in my mind. Fedi, a system notification. It was an epic-level chance encounter quest. Increase the favorability of all major female characters from water margin to 100. Once successfully rewrite the original plot, the system's item shop would unlock. Reading the quest details, my heart immediately pounded with excitement. For that item shop, I had to complete this quest. As my figure slowly walked away, Miss Ximen couldn't help but feel a surge of curiosity. Yuer. What did he mean by calling me Yuer? Ximen Qing's wife, Wu Yuanyang, was a breathtaking beauty, delicate and captivating, but he couldn't even be bothered to glance her way, often looking at her with utter disgust. And the reason why? Wu Yuanyang suffered from a persistent unpleasant body odor. Even with her natural beauty, Ximen Qing had never once touched her. And that, my friends, gave me the perfect opportunity. You see, I'd transmigrated from a medical genius into the body of Wu Dalang. Treating a minor issue like this, it was child's play for me. I followed Wu Yuanyang's maid to her chambers. Stepping inside, I saw the madam burning incense and praying. Perhaps Ximen Qing's constant neglect had left her feeling so insecure, she could only place her hopes in the gods. But my purpose here was to cure her. To perform the acupuncture, I'd need the madam to disrobe. At my request, Wu Yuanyang immediately tensed up. She snapped, "How dare you be so impertinent?" I pulled out a black silk cloth I carried. I sighed. There is no other way to ensure I hit the correct pressure points. This is essential. If you're worried about embarrassment, you can cover your eyes. She'd seen my methods when I treated Peng Chunlan last time. My treatments often require complete openness. The thought of covering her eyes made it somewhat acceptable. But the next second, my actions left her speechless. Turns out, I wasn't talking about twin me eyes but Fearson. As her vision went black, Wu Yuanyang was plunged into darkness, and I urged, "Madam, we can begin." To prevent her from resisting, I'd specifically allocated some of my attribute points to charm. This way, my words would carry more weight. "Madam, you can temporarily forget the constraints of your status and societal rules. My only goal is to heal you." Wu Yuanyang was still hesitating, but in the end, she couldn't resist my earnest persuasion. As a doctor, I believe the body is merely a vessel, fleeting and temporary. Since you've allowed me here, madam, I trust you believe in my character. Thinking of the cold stares from outsiders and her husband's neglect over the years, she knew she hadn't to cure her body odor, no matter what. Otherwise, her husband would surely cast her aside. Soon, Wu Yuanyang complied with all my requests. All she wanted now was to be cured quickly and then hopefully bear a child soon. I quickly located the correct pressure points. My silver needles are a bit thick, madam, please bear with me. Drawing on my knowledge of traditional Chinese medicine from my past life, I quickly applied needles to the key pressure points like Kuqi and Tianshu. Wu Yuanyang felt a slight sting, but it was quickly replaced by a comforting sensation as the points were cleared. Just as the treatment reached its critical stage, a man's voice and a knock echoed from outside the door. It was her husband, Ximen Qing. Wu Yuanyang jumped, quickly pulling the quilt over herself. Disgusted by his wife's scent, Ximen Qing didn't even step inside. He called out, "Why are you so bundled up on such a hot day?" Wu Yuanyang was utterly panicked. In a panic, she pulled Tu Toy Mi under the quilt too. She quickly mumbled that she had a fever and wasn't feeling well. I was incredibly awkward, practically suffocating under the covers. so I desperately tried to find a gap to breathe. As I squirmed beneath the quilt, Wu Yuanyang covered her face in a mix of shame and fury, not daring to make a sound. Ximen Qing, who usually paid his wife no mind, didn't notice anything amiss. He quickly rattled off some instructions, holding his nose the entire time. He was leaving for half a month to procure some medicinal herbs, leaving household affairs to the elder sister and second madam. As for you, just stay put at home. With that, he turned and left without a backward glance, muttering as he walked away, "She smells even worse today. I'll divorce her sooner or later." Once her husband was gone, Wu Yuanyang immediately pulled me out from under the quilt and slapped me hard across the face. Between her husband's neglect and my impertinence, she burst into tears, unleashing all her pent-up emotions on me. I grabbed her hands, stopping her from hitting me. I said sternly, "Can't you see what is happening? Ximen Qing doesn't care about you at all. You'll never be happy with him." As she tried to offer a weak defense, my words struck her to the core. Right now, everyone in Yanggu County knows that Ximen Qing's heart belongs entirely to the courtesan, Ligue, and out in public, he doesn't say a single good word about you. He calls you a vixen, reincarnated, reeking of body odor. Even the girls at the Lichen brothel know this. At this, Wu Yuanyang's expression grew even more heartbroken. She slowly rose and leaned in closer to me. Just as I thought she'd lost her mind from the shock, Wu Yuanyang suddenly dropped to her knees before me. As I stood there, utterly bewildered, a system notification flashed in my mind. Current affection 65. Fixed affection attribute gained. Total affection has reached 65 points. It turns out she'd let go of everything and poured all her love onto me alone. Only I didn't despise her scent. With that, she suddenly leaned in and kissed me. In truth, Wu Yuanyang understood perfectly well that Ximen Qing, who spent his days in debauchery, only married her because of her influential father. But this young divine doctor before her not only treated her illness but also opened her eyes. Since things had come to this, continuing to live as Ximen Qing's humiliated wife was far worse than following this young divine doctor. Meanwhile, in my mind's eye, a golden light flashed in my eyes. I hadn't expected this day to come so quickly. I thought to myself, Ximen Qing, now, the tables have turned. Your backyard is already ablaze. In this life, you won't lay a single finger on my wife, Jinlian. Just then, as Wu Yuanyang's affection reached 100 points, the system chimed, "Mission, win over the beauty, complete." To protect my beloved Pan Jinlian from Ximen Qing's dirty hands, I actually got to his wife first, secretly teaming up with her. We'd bide our time to uncover Ximen Qing's bribery and tax evasion. With this, I'd be free to do as I pleased, hit Ximen Qing where it hurts, securing a huge fortune, and she could finally divorce him and openly be with me. Since Ximen Qing was destined to be a scoundrel, then don't blame me, Wu Dalang, for making the first move. After several days of meticulous planning, my Wu family milk tea shop finally opened its doors. The unique blend of tea and milk aroma quickly drew a huge crowd. Originally, I wanted to use a modern sampling strategy, but many people didn't trust it, fearing I'd use it as an excuse to extort them, and the exorbitant price of 100 wen per cup scared them off. Seeing the crowd dwindle and with no sales since opening, Chunlan and Chunmei started to get anxious, looking at me and saying, "If this doesn't work, we'll have to lower the price." Jinlian also thought they had a point. A 100 wen tea drink was unheard of. But I remained confident the whole time. "Don't worry," I told them. "The real show hasn't even started yet." No sooner had I spoken than a sedan chair, emblazoned with the Ximen family crest, arrived. The surrounding villagers were all surprised because the person stepping out was none other than Madame Wu Yuanyang, Ximen Qing's head wife. Her father was a high-ranking official, a 5th-rank commander, Sudi, a true noble heiress. She stepped out and headed straight for my shop, ordering a cup without a word. At this point, I'd already mostly eliminated Wu Yuanyang's body odor with my special powder. This was all part of our plan discussed late at night just a few days ago, and we exchanged a knowing smile through her veil. Since all the ingredients were prepped in advance, the drink was ready in a flash. In front of everyone, Wu Yuanyang took a sip through the straw. Just a small taste immediately immersed her in a blissful sweet aftertaste. Then, she exclaimed from the bottom of her heart, "It is delicious. The unique flavor is simply divine, like an elixir from the heavens." Among the crowd were many servants of wealthy merchants and officials. Seeing this, they all rushed back to inform their masters and mistresses. Word spread like wildfire, and soon the people who could truly afford the milk tea started pouring in. This cross-century beverage was a complete game-changer for these ancient folk. Everyone who tried it without exception raved about how delicious it was. As the business boomed, even with 3 of us, we were swamped. Chunlan and Chunmei were now completely devoted to me. They exclaimed, "Good thing we listened to Sister Jinlian and joined you. Our good days are just beginning." Just then, a young master pushed his way through the crowd. Ever since I beat him up last time, Hua Zishu had been holding a grudge. He forced his way to the front, intending to buy a cup and then use it tastes bad as an excuse to cause trouble for me. I grabbed his arm, applying a little pressure and making Hua Zishu yelp in pain. I told him to get in line. If you dare cause trouble, I won't mind beating you up again, I sternly lectured Hua Zishu. Wu Yuanyang stepped forward, speaking up for me. Everyone present was a person of considerable status, so under pressure, Hua Zishu had no choice but to obediently get in line. He thought to himself, if this doesn't taste good later, I'll immediately report him for fraud at the yamen and then find a chance to smash this pathetic shop of his. But the moment he actually tasted the milk tea, he froze. When I asked him, is it good, Hua Zishu barely managed to utter "goo," then quickly covered his mouth. He swore he wouldn't say delicious even if it killed him, but in the end, he couldn't resist the milk tea's fragrant allure and succumbed, praising it is absolutely delicious. His reaction instantly made everyone burst into laughter, and then Hua Zishu, red-faced with shame, fled the scene. He'd truly embarrassed himself beyond belief this time. After closing the shop for the night, we tallied up the earnings, a total of 4 guan. Jinlian was quite pleased. This was far better than selling steamed buns. But I casually said, this is just the beginning, and hung up a sign, limited to 200 cups per Dalton Y. Wu Dalang promised to earn 10 guan a day. Just you wait, ladies. Tomorrow you'll see. My words will definitely come true. Jinlian believed me implicitly. She believed that with me, the Wu family would surely prosper. She then added, Dalang, you'll have to work hard tonight too, to help the Wu family grow and flourish. At this, the other 2 sisters couldn't sit still. They rushed forward, declaring they also wanted to contribute to the Wu family's growth. The 3 women then split into 2 camps, vying fiercely over who would bear the Wu family's first son. Seeing the 3 women, I knew I couldn't escape tonight, so I told them, everyone gets one chance tonight. I couldn't help it. I'd been overexerting myself quite a bit lately and I didn't want to regret it when I was old. After a vigorous session of private lessons, I have to say, Jinlian was getting better and better under my guidance. She could really keep up with me. As for the sisters, they were new recruits, easy to handle. I subdued them in no time. The next morning, as soon as the milk tea shop opened, Chunlan was immediately stunned by the sight. The shop entrance was already packed with people. They had all voluntarily formed a long queue. The line was so massive, it stretched all the way to the city gates. This was all exactly as I'd predicted. Looking at my wives, I asked, remember what I told you all before? The 3 of them were overjoyed and they all chimed in, celebrity endorsement plus scarcity marketing. This playful moment between me and my wives was witnessed by a man lurking in the corner nearby. He was so furious, his hands were bleeding from clenching his fists. He snarled, you despicable shorty, I'll take all your women. To win over the stunning beauty Li Pinger, Wu Dalang deliberately made noise late at night, keeping her from sleeping. You see, Li Pinger was married, but it was a marriage in name only. Her husband, Hua Zishu, suspected her of having an affair with his eunuch uncle, so he'd never touched her. Hua Zishu already hated my guts because I'd repeatedly bested him, and to top it off, his wife Li Pinger had long wanted a divorce. So, as a price for her freedom, Hua Zishu ordered Li Pinger to infiltrate my tea shop. If she could successfully steal my secret recipe, he'd grant her a divorce. With the power of his Hua family, he could open several shops and easily crush my Wu tea. After it is done, he promised, I'll split half the family fortune with you. As for you, the world is vast. Go wherever you please. Li Pinger gladly accepted these terms. She had absolute confidence in her charm. Getting that recipe would be a piece of cake. Seeing his wife agree, Hua Zishu was overjoyed. When Wu Ji falls, he gloated, I'll happily take his 3 beauties for myself. Meanwhile, my milk tea shop was a massive hit. We sold 200 cups just on our opening morning. To appease the customers who couldn't get any, I'd prepared special loyalty cards, buy 1 cup, get 1 stamp, collect 4 stamps and get 1 free, and so on. This novel method immediately won everyone's praise, and they grew to love my shop even more. Next door, Granny Wang's tea shop watched this scene with seething jealousy. She scoffed, is Wu Dalang's tea really that good, or did he add some kind of bewitching drug? After enthusiastically sending off the last customers and closing up, I began calculating the shop's earnings. A total profit of 20,000 wen with costs of only 3,800 wen. I couldn't hide my surprise, Chunmei exclaimed. In just one day we earned a full 16 guan. That is 6 guan more than we expected. The 2 sisters immediately hugged each other, absolutely thrilled. And just like that, the system chimed. The 2 girls' favorability instantly rose to 100%. Triggered Huixin Chaoji, granting the ability of photographic memory. At the same time, Homestead Guardian Bond activated, subordinate loyalty increased, speed plus 15%, remaining attribute points increased to 220. These prompts immediately made me ecstatic. Today's a good day indeed, I couldn't help but exclaim. As our family income soared, Jinlian grew more and more dependent on me, constantly clinging to me to learn my ancestral spear techniques. But seeing Pan Jinlian trying to monopolize me again, the other sisters immediately grew jealous. They pounced forward, shouting that they wanted to learn too. You see, all three women had their own ulterior motives, each wanting to bear my first son to solidify their status. Pan Jinlian was furious, angrily retorting, "What right do you have to compete with me? The Sun Tenny Bear will be the legitimate heir. Even if you give birth first, it'll be a concubine's child." Just as the three women were bickering, a woman's voice called out from outside the door. The system promptly chimed in my mind talent. Homestead Guardian activated. Li Pinger's true purpose and favorability are now completely clear. It wasn't until the door opened that Tuanqi understood. No wonder Hua Zixu would go to such length to beg her. Wu Dalang actually had 3 such stunning wives. He was clearly envious and wanted them for himself. After Chunlan's inquiry, we learned she deliberately changed her name to Li Shiner, having been kicked out by her husband's family and left homeless. She knew Wu Ji's new shop was booming, so she wanted to see if they were hiring. She emphasized her hardworking and diligent nature, pleading with helpless eyes for me to take her in. I was just worrying about not having a reason to get close to her, and now she delivered herself right to my doorstep. So I immediately discussed it with my wives. "The shop really is short-staffed lately," I said. "She looks pitiful, let's keep her." Pan Jinlian was becoming more and more obedient to me. Seeing her husband speak, she immediately agreed. "Don't cry, sister," she said kindly. "The guest room downstairs is empty, you can stay there for now." From dusk till deep into the night, Li Pinger couldn't sleep, all because of the constant sound of wooden boards rubbing upstairs, accompanied by the faint cries of several women. It had been going on for 2 or 3 hours. Li Pinger gradually grew restless with desire, secretly thinking, "This 3-inch dwarf is truly amazing." And she was right. This was all intentional on my part. The book said Li Pinger had been lonely in her empty room for years. A proper display of my strength might just bring unexpected surprises. With a ding, the system chimed, "Li Ping ses favorability plus 15. I couldn't help but exclaim, just as I expected. The next day, with a new shop assistant, I felt much more relaxed. I gathered some things, preparing to head to the county street. As the business grew, I knew some official connections still needed to be greased. Before long, I arrived at the Yamen entrance. For the price of 2 taels of silver, I arranged to meet the county magistrate. As long as I could establish this connection, those with ill intentions wouldn't dare cause trouble openly. Moreover, according to my intel, this Gongsun Yuan was considered a just and benevolent official who truly benefited the people. He was definitely worth befriending. With silver as a boost, efficiency was high, and soon I met Magistrate Gongsun. After some simple pleasantries, Gongsun Yuan expressed slight dissatisfaction with my shop's booming business and long queues, which forced him to arrange Yamen runners daily to maintain order. Seeing this, I showed no remorse. Instead, I confidently stated that I had a plan to make Yanggu County completely prosperous. Upon hearing this, he immediately became interested. "Tell me more," he urged. With a confident smile, I directly stated that the key to prosperity was the Yanggu 3-piece set, namely tea, pastries, and stew pots. He had expected some brilliant scheme, but these sounded quite ordinary. Gongsun Yuan couldn't help but frown. It wasn't until I took out the things I had prepared. "Words alone are not enough, Your Excellency," I said. "You can first try the peach blossom crisps I made." With a touch of curiosity, he took one. Purely based on appearance, my peach crisps were definitely top-notch. But the moment it entered his mouth, Gongsun Yuan was instantly astonished. A warm current rushed straight to his head. The taste of these peach crisps was simply beyond imagination. "What did you add?" he gasped. "The peach kernels and shortbread are blended so seamlessly. Such a taste seemed to only exist in heaven." Wu GT's booming business goes without saying. If these peach crisps were added as a specialty, Yanggu County earning a fortune daily would be incredibly easy. "And finally, the stew pot," I said. "For that, I'll need to borrow Your Excellency's kitchen." But just then, a young maiden suddenly jumped out. "Shopkeeper Wu, did you ask Sovereign this humble maiden if you could use the kitchen?" Just a simple cooking competition, and suddenly the dignified heiress of a prominent family was incredibly impressed by me, even humbling herself to kneel and admit defeat. She was willing to pay any price to learn my secrets, all because my culinary skills were simply out of this world. With just one fish head tofu soup, I completely conquered Gongsun Yuan's taste buds. Before this, she considered herself a true food connoisseur and had completely dismissed me. She even challenged me, saying, "I hear shopkeeper Wu's tea soup is the best in Yanggu, but I wonder about your cooking skills. Would you dare to compete with me?" The moment she spoke, a system notification popped up. Gongsun Wan's culinary challenge, win for +20 attribute points, lose for -50 affinity with opponent, who'd say no to free attribute points. So I decisively accepted the challenge. Since you insist, it would be rude to refuse. Gongsun Wan suggested we use the 2 plump silver carp that had just arrived at the manor to make fish head stewed with tofu and see who was better. Stepping into the kitchen, I couldn't help but praise the environment. It was so well maintained, even a high-end restaurant couldn't compare. Gongsun Wan was delighted by my compliment, and her affinity for me increased by 15 points. Soon, the showdown began. Gongsun Wan swiftly chopped off the fish head, then added rice wine, ginger, and her special precious pepper powder, confident she'd win. In her eyes, she was sure to win this competition. On my side, I used a physical method to remove fishiness, soaking the fish thoroughly in salt water, making sure to clean off all the blood and slime, then repeatedly rubbing and marinating it with scallion and ginger juice. Unlike her, I didn't choose expensive rice wine. Instead, I used the cheapest unfiltered rice wine because its higher ethanol concentration breaks down the fishy smell more thoroughly. Santi, a true chemical method for defishing. This series of operations completely overturned Gongsun Wan's understanding, leaving her shocked and increasingly curious about my methods. During the cooking, when I used pork lard, Gongsun Wan's affinity for me immediately dropped by 10 points. Pork lard is greasy and clashes with the fresh taste of fish, she thought. Isn't he just ruining good ingredients? Even the county magistrate who was watching thought it was inappropriate. However, my next move instantly silenced them. As I poured in a pot of boiling water, the previously cloudy broth instantly turned milky white. Gongsun Wan was stunned by this sight. She'd never seen fish soup turn such a color. Seeing the heat was just right, I transferred it to a clay pot, added tofu, salted it, added more firewood, covered it, and began to stew it over high heat. On the other side, Gongsun Wan focused intently, sticking to traditional methods for stewing fish, unlike my unconventional approach. But as my clay pot's temperature rose, the aroma couldn't be contained and spread everywhere. Smelling it, Gongsun Wan began to question again, why is his aroma so potent? A moment later, I uncovered my pot, signaling it was done. Gongsun Wan's time was also up, and her fish head tofu soup was ready too. As the witness to this competition, the county magistrate naturally became the judge. He first tasted his daughter's fish soup, which followed ancient methods and was cooked to perfection. Gongsun Yuan praised it, saying it was excellent. Next was mine. He took a fresh spoon, slowly brought it to his mouth, and the moment it touched his tongue, his mind was instantly shaken. The exquisite freshness of the fish soup made him feel as if he'd transformed into a fish, swimming freely in a wild pond. In that moment, one thought surfaced in his mind: this is simply divine. Without a moment's hesitation, the county magistrate immediately declared that Brother Wu was the winner. He even exclaimed, "Forget my own daughter. Even if the King of Heaven himself came, Brother Wu would still win." At this point, Gongsun Wan was extremely curious about my dish. She'd never seen her father praise food like this before, so she couldn't resist taking a small spoonful to taste. The result was the same as her father's. It was like a feast for the senses that transcended mountains and seas, the rich, fresh aroma sending her straight to the heavens. At this, Gongsun Wan knelt down, declaring, "Sir, with your 3-step defishing method and the miraculous technique of turning broth milky white with boiling water, this humble girl admits defeat wholeheartedly." Simultaneously, the system notification for task completed rang out and 20 attribute points were easily acquired. Seeing her so respectful, I quickly reached out to help her up. "Today I was just fortunate to win this time. It is not that my cooking is more exquisite than yours," I said. "It is because I understand the Maillard reaction that occurs between pork lard and fish at high temperatures." This series of professional terms left Gongsun Wan utterly impressed. Her affinity increased by another 30 points. From then on, the county magistrate completely trusted me. So we began to discuss Yangu's signature products and business plans. I didn't waste any time explaining that my stew pot method was simple. The magistrate could establish a training center, and anyone who mastered it could get a license from the local government to open their own stew pot restaurant, eventually creating a dedicated food street. Travelers and merchants attracted by our tea soup, after buying peach crisps, would naturally try our stew pots too. Thinking about this, the magistrate could almost see Yangu flourishing and prospering. Once the business model was settled, Gongsun Yuan then inquired about profit distribution, saying, "Brother, you'll take the lion's share, so you tell me." I replied, "Since I'll also open restaurants and introduce new dishes in the future, and my milk tea and pastry shops will open branches, I am willing to split all these profits 50-50ths with you, elder brother." The moment I spoke, the magistrate's eyes lit up, but then he quickly said, "No need for so much. You take 70%, I'll take 30%. With official resources now secured, getting rid of Ximen Qing would be much easier. Yanggu County would become my base of operations. After that, it would be time to build up my forces and prepare for the future invasion of the Jurchens from the north. Just as I stepped out of the manor gate, Chunmei rushed over, shouting, "Master, something terrible has happened." That Li Shiner, Hua Zixu's wife, she stole the milk tea recipe and ran off, and she opened an even bigger tea soup shop right across from us. What was bound to happen has happened, but it was all within my expectations.